Hello everyone, Lit here. So there's a few people asking me about how I get my minion damage, and I want to make a video to explain how you can scale your minion damage. And one important thing is, on this video I will show you the number from the tooltips, and the number from the tooltip is not exactly accurate, I will say, because the number does go ups and down even though the variance is not that big. So if we have the software like part of building for PoE2, we will have like a more accurate and more detailed informations on how the damage actually works. But that's for another video because the part of building for PoE2 is not released yet. So this video will based on the number from the tooltip because this is what we have. So number one is minion skills. So minion is scaling really well with skill level. For example, this is level 35, I have 29.4, so this is almost 30k. If I take one level out, it will go down to 25.7, so this is quite a lot of damage drop just from one single level. And there is a multiple way you can get minion level. You can get from something like this: support gem, plus one level to minions, per one level to cold. And how you can check if which kind of mastery that's going to work for your minion, if you see on your minion, you can see the tag over here. This is persistence, and there is a cold tag, and there's also a minion tag. So minion obviously is going to work on minion, and the cold mastery works because Frost Mage have cold tag. And specifically for support gems, plus one level generally is not the best way to get DPS. I will talk about that a little bit later on because I have to explain the mechanic on how Frost Mage works. But this is just an example that level minion does matter quite a lot. And there's a multiple sources you can get minion level. Number one, you can get from like the unique like this. This is plus 2 minions. You can get plus 2 from your helmet. You can get up to plus 3 on your amulet, and you can get up to plus 5 on your scepter. So that's the first one, minion level. It's a very easy way if you want to get more damage for your minions. Then you will want to have a lot of items that give your level of all minion skills. And the next one is support gems. And support gems, like I explained earlier, plus one usually is not the best. For example, if I take this one off, just for the demonstration, this is 25.4. And if I put the minion mastery to replace feeding frenzy, let's say, it actually dropped in terms of DPS. It's dropped from 25 to 23. And the reason for that one is because some support gem, it does give you more damage. And more damage on part of exile is multiplicative. If you compare that to something like this say increased damage, which is a very generic stats that going to give you minion damage. When it say increase, it additive. Generally speaking, in a part of exile, you want both of them, but more is usually better because it's multiplicative. So you're going to have a bigger number with more. So this is the reason why something like feeding frenzy will give you more damage than let's select minion master that give you plus one level. Even I show you before, plus level is give you quite a lot of DPS, but for support gems specifically, something like feeding frenzy can give you a lot more DPS. Now there is another support gem which is called concentrated effect, and con effect works in a very unique way for Frost Mage. So I need to explain how Frost Mage works. As you can see on the showcase of here, Frost Mage shoot a projectile. When the projectile hit the target, it will deal a projectile damage, then it will explode and deal the explosion damage. And this is why when you see on the ice shard tab, there is two tabs. The first one is for the projectile damage, and the second one is for the explosion damage. And when you see something like con effect, this only gives area damage. Now your projectile is not an area damage, but the explosion is. The explosion is an area damage, and this is what getting skill by con effect. And the reason why con effect gives you so much damage is because of scatter shot. And remember when I explained how Frost Mage works, it shoot a projectile and the projectile explode. Now what happens when you shoot 3 projectile? In part of exile, doesn't matter how many projectile you shoot, it cannot hit the same target. But the explosion from the projectile can hit the same target. And this is what we call shotgun. And that's why something like scatter shot is going to improve your damage by quite a lot. Even though if I take this off, it actually going to give you a bigger number. So let's do the math over here. So you shoot one projectile, it explodes, it deal 40k plus 55k, so it's 95k damage. But if you put scatter shot, Now you hit 25k plus 35 times 3, because the projectile cannot shotgun. The projectile you're only going to hit once, so it is only 25k. But because your explosion can hit the same target and you shoot 3 projectiles, so this is 35 times 3, and that's like 105 plus the projectile damage is 130k. And this is why scatter shot improve your damage, even though in tooltips it drop your damage, because on the skill gem you can see that it make your skill deal less damage, it make your skill have less attack and cast speed. So that's the reason why scatter shot works, because it make the Frost Mage able to shotgun. So this is very important, because just because you have like a bigger number over here, it doesn't mean you're going to deal more DPS. So there is a mechanic that you need to understand why scatter shot is good, even though it dropped the number on your tooltip. Something like Cone Effect is really good because it scaled the explosion, and remember from the shotgun, the explosion can hit the same target. So scaling the explosion is actually better than scaling the projectile, because with projectile you can only hit once, and this is why Cone Effect is really good. Now I do not mention Cone Effect on my last video because I mean, I already showed the showcase, you pretty much instantly kill the boss, so more DPS doesn't really cross my mind anymore, because I think I already hit the amount of DPS that you're going to kill the boss really fast. And anything faster than this is like, does it really matter if you kill your boss with like 1 second and 2 seconds? Like, it doesn't really make that much difference, right? So this is the reason why the Cone Effect, I just completely forget about that. But if you need more DPS for a single target, Cone Effect is really good. So next, let's talk about the stats modifier. And we have something like minion increased damage, and minion cast speed and attack speed. And increased damage is very generic. It's increased damage. It literally did what it said. And for attack and cast speed, and this will be depending on what minion you use. For example, for Frost Mage, you can see over here, this is a cast time. This means this minion is casting spell. So this is spell minions. And when I'm clicking something like Reaver, for examples, it's a attack time. So this is the attack type minion. So if you want to play Reaver, for example, on your scepter, you need to find attack speed instead of cast speed. But if you want to play Frost Mage, or let's say like Storm Mage is also spell. This is cast time. You need to go for cast speed. And for attack and cast speed, there are only few source from your passive tree. For examples, this node over here, plus 3%. And this 3 small node over here going to give another 3% each. So you only have that much attack and cast speed, and this is the reason why when I recommend going for scepter, I always recommend go for minion level, increase spirit, and attack or cast speed. I think this is the only place you can get a huge amount of attack speed and cast speed. So because this is the only source, you really want to have them on your scepter. And another way you can get attack and cast speed is also from something like this. This is a jewel, and there is a suffix on the jewel that's going to give you attack and cast speed. And the next start, let's talk about critical chance and critical damage. So let me demonstrate this. Frost Mage is the minion that have a highest crit chance, that is 11%. And this build in particular, scaling crit, like I'm taking all the crit node over here, critical chance, critical damage, this is critical chance, and this is basically all my gems. All my jewel have crit chance and critical damage, except for these two. This one have elemental resistance. I probably should replace this. And this one have attack and cast speed. I probably should go for crit chance and critical damage. So I invest everything on crit and crit damage, except for the 2 gem that I explained earlier. And you can see over here, I have 44.5 crit chance and 353 critical damage bonus. And critical damage is basically a multiplier. So for example, if you hit like 1,000 damage, if you crit and you have 353%, that means you're going to hit 4,530 damage, because 1,000 the base damage plus 3,530 as a critical damage bonus. So you deal basically like 4x your damage. And the crit setup only work if you can get good enough critical chance. For example, this is 44.5. So this is like roughly every 2 attack you crit once. and this will make the crit very consistent. And because of this, the base crit chance really matters a lot. For examples, the Frost Mage have the highest, like I said before, is 11%, and the second highest is Storm Mage. Storm Mage have 9% base crit. So, and if you see on Storm Mage, it goes down to 36. So you already lose quite a lot of crit chance just because Storm Mage have a little bit less base critical chance. And this is a reason why I do not recommend if you want to go for something like Reaver, Sniper, Arsonist, all of them have 5% crit chance. It's really low. And if you see on the crit chance for the Reaver is only 20%. Imagine from the Frost Mage you go from 44 and to Reaver you go down to 20%. So if you want to play something like Reaver, do not go critical chance, because you only have 5% base crit, and it's really hard to scale that 5% up to like a acceptable level. Like I said, I really recommend trying to get to like around 40 to 50% for it to be consistent. So it's really not worth to go for crit setup if you want to play something like Reaver, if you want to play something like Arsonist, if you want to play something like Sniper. For Storm Mage, this is probably debatable. I personally will still not recommend that one. I do try play with Storm Mage. You probably have to go for Doriani prototype. I will recommend check out Gazi TV. He does make the version with Storm Mage. You have to use a unique chest. But for Storm Mage itself, this is kind of debatable. You probably can go crit, you probably cannot go crit, but crit setup is something you have to commit. So if you want to go crit, you go full crit. The questions now become like, okay, if you want to play Reaver, how do we scale the damage then? Well, you scale it with minion damage, with more damage, with attack and cast speed. You stack that as much as possible, and that's how you scale the damage for something like Reaver, Sniper, or Arsonist that have a very low base crit chance. This is the reason why I want to make this video, because I do see some people showcasing a build with Reaver, but they also go for crit. And the next one I want to talk about is the Jewel. Now I want to showcase like how strong the Jewel is, and the reason why I want to showcase that one is because if you go to your passive tree, and if I type minions, there is only so much minion node you can get for offense. For example, this whole cluster over here, this is minion. This one minion damage, this one is minion movement speed, pretty much mandatory. And there is also crit cluster over here. This is also crit cluster. And if you play something like Reaver, you probably will not take this crit node. And there is like minion damage over here. This is minion damage. And there is minion attack speed and minion damage over here. And we also have another cluster over here. And that's all the minions nodes. Basically it. And I mean, there is another one. Like on here, there is minion damage. But this is really far. So I don't think you need to go for that one. There is also one over here. But the pathing is just not going there. So the question becomes, what you're gonna do to scale the minion damage if you already take all the node that you can take? So how you can scale beyond this on the passive tree is by using Jewel. And there's a Jewel like this, which is Sapphire Jewel, and this Jewel have all the offensive mods for your minions. I want to showcase on this one, I have like almost 30k DPS, and if I take all the Jewel off, I want to show how much the DPS lost from that. So let me take all of that off. This one over here. And this one over here. And there's this one over here. There's this one over here. There's this one over here. And there's this one over here. So I total have like 10 jewels. And these 10 jewels basically make my DPS go from 12k to 30k. So the difference is really huge. This specific setup is really huge because it's a crit setup. This is the benefit of crit setup. It's able to scale your DPS by quite a lot because critical damage is a multiplier. But I want to showcase like how much this jewel actually contribute to your DPS. And this is the reason why this jewel is very expensive. Like for example, a jewel like this, with increased damage, crit chance, and crit damage. I think this jewel like around 7 divine each. And this is why I recommend when you want to start with like something like Frost Mage, just go for crit chance and crit damage. Just focus on the 2 stats because that's the most important one. And when you have more currency, you can add minion deal increased damage. But the most important stat is critical chance and critical damage. And that's going to cut your cost by quite a lot. So you don't have to go for like something like this, which is going to cost you a lot of currency. So that's the reason why I can have this number over here. That's why my DPS is really, really high. Because all the jewel, it does contribute for a lot of DPS. And the last one is the number of minions though. So how many minions you can get. For example, like this one, whatever you see here is per minion. So the more minion you have, you basically multiply this number with how many you have. So if you have 10 minion, you times 10. You have 15 minions, you times 15 minions. So more minion you have, you're going to deal more damage. And this is not something that you can see from the tooltip. You kind of have to see how many minion you have and you multiply it by how many DPS you have per minions. So this is also the reason why I'm trying to stack as much spirit as I can, because the more minion I have, the better clear I will have, because you will have more minion hitting more stuff, but you're also going to have more damage even on single target because there's more minion that dealing damage. And this is also a questions that probably a lot of people are going to ask, like minion cleric. When do you use minion cleric and when do you use like just go for Frost Mage? Now, the only reason why you want to go for cleric is for stability. So cleric does make your minion less likely to die. Like if, for example, like if I adding all of them to Frost Mage, I have 16, so I have one more minion. But because I do not have any regen, I do not have any recovery for the Frost Mage, when you're mapping, your minion going to take damage, and the damage going to get and the HP going to get down, and someone they're going to die, and you have to go for the timer. So something like Skeleton Cleric is more about the consistency of your minion, so it helps to keep your minion alive. And generally speaking, I only going to take the Cleric if number one I have a spare spirit, and the second one if I can trade one Frost Mage for 2 Cleric. And also another note, for the Frost Mage have a skill on here that called Ice Bomb. So if I press this one, this is Ice Bomb. It's going to drop one projectile. It's going to deal a really big AoE damage, and this is actually hit pretty hard. So if you on, like, let's say you're doing breach or you're doing like a general mapping, so this is something you can do to improve your like clearing speed. This is mostly about clearing. I don't think you need this for single target. Single target just let the minion do the work. But for clearing, the Ice Bomb does help by quite a lot. So I think that's it about the video. And if you guys have any questions, leave in the comment below. I will try my best to answer all the questions. And if you like the video or if this video is helpful for you, consider like and subscribe. That will help the channel a lot. And thank you everyone for watching. I will see you in the next one and have a good day.